Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to teach you how to make homemade ketchup. We have a lot of tomatoes in the garden, a lot coming out of there, and need something to do with it. So we're making some ketchup. We could make salsa, we could make spaghetti sauce, we could make all kinds of things. I chose ketchup. So let's dive in. Okay guys, so for the ketchup that we are doing, you need... I'm really making this recipe a lot smaller than it really is. I am cutting it down by 1/6 of what the recipe was, just so you know. So, for me, I have 4 pounds of tomatoes. There's cherry tomatoes, there's regular tomatoes, there's a little bit of everything. I'm trying to use up the ones that have been red the longest so that they don't go bad. So, you cut those in half or quarters, and you put them in a crock pot. Next, you need some other ingredients. So first things first, we need 1/4 cup of brown sugar. I keep my brown sugar in a mason jar. You may not, but that's how I tend to keep it. I am using a bigger cup. I know how to measure it. More brown sugar is going to create a sweeter ketchup. Less brown sugar, obviously it's not as sweet then. I'm going to put that into our crock pot. Next we need 1/2 cup of white vinegar. Make sure it's the 5% acidity at the very least. You need 1/2 cup. And you need 1/4 cup of water. I use the water from my little cooler just because I think it's a little cleaner. 1/2 tablespoon of salt. Again, I'm using the canning and pickling salt. Use kosher salt and not iodine salt for anything that you might be canning. So I'm using 1/2 tablespoon. And 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. And finally 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. So this, guys, you're going to put it on your crock pot on low for a couple hours, and then after a couple hours you're going to use an immersion blender at the very least to blend this stuff up really good, and then continue cooking it till you get to your consistency. So I'm going to throw this in the crock pot. We'll bring you back when it gets closer to done, because next step is just letting it cook. Now after you've had it on low, cooking down for a couple hours, you're going to hit it with an immersion blender. You can use a food processor. I don't have one, so immersion blender it is. You're just going to really chop everything up. So if you use something like this, you'll help get the seeds and the skin out, so you don't end up with that. So we're going to go ahead and go through that, and then you're going to put this on low and just keep cooking it down until it gets to the desired thickness of your ketchup. Because this is obviously a very thin ketchup. It smells amazing though. So we're going to let it keep cooking. Once you reach your desired consistency of the ketchup, you're going to fill your jars. I've actually saved some bottles so I can actually put them in, basically like ketchup bottles instead of a mason jar. So that's what we're going to do. I've already filled one. I did not make a crap ton. I've got other things I want to do with my tomatoes too. And I'd never made this before, so I didn't know how we were going to like it as a family. So I figured a small amount to try. Perfect. If we love it, well, maybe we can make more. We'll see. It uses a lot of tomatoes, which is fine when you have a ton of tomatoes, but I also like my salsa and stuff made with my tomatoes. So I don't know how many I'm going to make of ketchup. This will be the special occasion ketchup, not the let's make barbecue sauce ketchup. These bottles were, I believe, soy sauce or teriyaki sauce. Perfect for ketchup bottles. And now some people don't like using the lids that come with bottles and jars from the store. They don't trust them to seal. They will seal, so you can reuse them. But if you don't want to do that, you can just use a half pint jar or pint jar instead. Still works the same. This is just my way of recycling and cutting down how many jars I have to buy. So once they're filled up, make sure they're clean and sterilized. I've got to reposition you guys so you can see what I'm doing. Make sure they're clean and sterilized before you fill them. I did let this cool down so it's not hot going into hot. Make sure your rim is clean, and then you're going to put your lid back on. I left roughly a ½ inch of headspace. I would say debubble. I'm not going to be able to debubble this so easily because of what it's in. I could use a butter knife and debubble it. But it's going to go in the water bath for 15 minutes at a rolling boil so it seals, and then it's shelf stable. Isn't that pretty? It's a pretty little ketchup. Looks like a little ketchup bottle. Homemade. Smells amazing. And we can try it. I like it. It's a little bit sweeter than store-bought, but I did add a little more sugar into it because I thought it needed more sugar. Maybe it didn't, but it tastes amazing. Mine did cook for about 24 hours. Part of the problem being when you're letting that moisture or letting the liquid evaporate off, take the lid off. I did put a paper towel over my crock pot just so hair and stuff couldn't fly in because I have a lot of animals, but that helps keep that stuff out, but it allows the water to evaporate off. I forgot that at first, so I had it on low, trying to evaporate water off, and it had a lid on, so it didn't work out so well. But it did help meld those flavors together very nicely. So, no complaints here.